Sarah Jones. I'm a classicist and ancient art historian. Maybe you've said to yourself, Hades is really cool, but how much of it is based on actual myth? Well, good news, you're about to find out. Hades is a roguelike in which you play as Zagreus, the son of Hades, as he fights his way through various levels of the underworld with the ultimate goal of joining his extended family on Olympus. This is actually pretty accurate. Zagreus was the son of Persephone and either Hades or Zeus, depending on who you talk to. He was a major figure in the Orphic mysteries, and is super wrapped up in resurrection, titans, salvation, and Dionysus, all of which shows up in this game one way or another. This particular underworld is made up of 3 levels, plus a liminal temple and the House of Hades. Fortunately for Supergiant, there is no one canon of the Greek underworld, so they had a lot of room for creativity. I mean, let's face it, the Greeks could barely agree with each other, let alone come up with an unchanging version of something as nebulous as the afterlife. What we do have are common conventions. Zagreus starts his escape in Tartarus, which is one of the most famous areas in the underworld. It's variously the bottom level of Hades' domain, or, according to Hesiod, about as far beneath the earth as the earth is from Olympus, so really deep underground. This is where Zeus locks up everyone who messes up really badly, like Sisyphus and the Danaids. You don't get normal people appearing in Tartarus until the Roman period, so the wretches that attack you here are a bit out of place in the Greek underworld. But the level needs enemies, and they match up with enemy types from other Supergiant games, so it makes sense from a design perspective. What I do appreciate is the color scheme. Rather than fire and brimstone, which is associated with hell, they've used green and dark shadows. That way you still get the gloomy vibe, but you don't conflate it with a Christian idea of hell. That's not to say there isn't any fire and brimstone. An underworld game with a lava level would be like a Spartan who doesn't kick people off cliffs. More accurate, but far less entertaining. Asphodel, which should be rather unmemorable, has flooded and is now full of lava. Bad news for real estate, but good news for anyone hoping for a hellscape level. Enemies here follow that theme with the exception of Lernie, the bone Hydra boss you meet at the very end. You might be wondering how the Hydra got its heads back after Hercules, but the Romans have us covered here too. Virgil has a 50-headed Hydra living near the river Phlegethon, the flaming one that has flooded this level, which stops anyone from leaving. Granted, his Hydra is guarding Tartarus instead of Asphodel, but it's close enough. Once you get past Lernie, you'll find yourself in Elysium, the fabled lands of the blessed. Supergiant has gone with an ethereal blue palette, with lots of mist, water, and shiny decorations. Enemies here are mostly dead heroes, which tracks with the general idea of Elysium, a place where the best people end up. Since they are all warriors, it seems like we're getting a Homeric ideal instead of some sort of moral goodness. In short, heroes ensure their immortality by building up Kleos, renowned from great deeds. And you can think of that like street cred. The more badass you are, the more people remember you. It's not what we think of as heroic, which is probably why most of the enemies here are self-resurrecting jerks, but you can take that up with Theseus at the end of the level. After him, we get the Temple of Styx, which doesn't really have an ancient. There were a bunch of entrances to the underworld, but none of them looked like this, and they probably weren't overrun with vermin either. That leaves us with the gods. Those beautiful, infuriating beings who are either helping you out or smiting you for offending them. Overall, they are very well done. Their ethnic diversity reflects the reality of the ancient world and various Greek myths. Some, like Athena, are very close to the original, while others, like Hypnos, have a bit more creative liberty. But as a whole, their boons and dialogue match up with the ancient sources. Take Artemis, for example. We should expect a huntress who is not interested in relationships with men, likes wild animals, and uses a bow. The Artemis we meet here is exactly that. The deer horns she wears and the quails on her bow were both sacred to her. She wears a short tunic so that she can run easily, and her numerous moon ornaments reflect the fact that she was associated with the phases of the moon. She also has a bit of a Princess Mononoke vibe, which is a nice nod to modern parallels. Her boons, of course, are focused around precision and critical hits. Now, the way the boons play into combat is really cool and surprisingly close to a typical Greek hero story. When Zagreus leaves the house, he picks a single weapon, which will be what he uses for the entire run. You can use a spear, sword, bow, or shield, all very Greek, gloves, a little bit more exotic, but we do get a few heroic boxers, or a railgun. Not especially Greek, but I love that Hestia, goddess of the hearth, uses a firearm. Each of these has different strengths and weaknesses, and can dictate your strategy against different enemies. They are also closely associated with various gods. And this tracks with mythology. Heroes usually get their best gear from the gods that look out for them, like Perseus and literally all of his gear, or from earlier notable heroes like Philoctetes and the bow of Heracles. Gods can also provide other boosts, such as making someone extremely attractive or obscuring them in a cloud. The boons that Zagreus receives mirror the type of help that a hero would likely receive from that specific god. In fact, Artemis gives Daphne, the huntress, not the tree, the ability to shoot straight, which I read as boosted accuracy and or crit chance. Elsewhere, she gave Procrus a javelin that always hits its mark, which is more or less the seeking arrow ability that we see here in Hades. So not only do the weapon and boon choices sync with each other and enable you to customize your build, they also follow mythological precedent pretty closely. Hades isn't all about combat, however. Just as much of the gameplay is navigating relationships with other mythological beings. Throughout his various runs, Zagreus will alter the fate of numerous underworld denizens, such as Sisyphus, Achilles, Eurydice, and even his own parents. He must also curry favor with the Olympians while taking care not to get caught up in their politics. And this is where we diverge a bit from mythology. Zagreus is a genuinely nice guy, and Greek heroes, as a rule, are not. Even if they mean well, there tends to be a lot of collateral damage that they can't or won't fix. And if you want to see what I mean, go read a Greek tragedy. Literally any Greek tragedy. But Zagreus is a god of salvation and second chances, and in the end, Hades isn't as much about a power fantasy as it is about creating bonds along with your builds. In conclusion, Hades is a great synthesis of myth and design. It combines fast, engaging combat that stands for the best of the roguelike genre, fantastic writing, and an abiding respect for mythological precedent. If you're looking for a springboard into the Greek underworld that is not only thoughtful, but will keep you coming back for more, you're not going to find a better candidate than Hades.